Hello, my name is Charlotte, and welcome to Tulaverse, where I share stories for a white bird, white animal union. Today, I wanted to share a story about unification from my experience of the feminine coming into these circles of unification. Last week, or my previous story, I shared about unification and my experience of the masculine. And this week, I wanted to share about the opposite and how I have experienced women coming into these circles for unification. I have in the past have witnessed women kind of coming into these circles being a little in their feminine power, a little dulled down. Not everyone, of course, but many, yes. Just as a witness, it's something I've noticed. And I have thought that it has come from a few reasons. One is women kind of not knowing who they are and who they came to be in this world, which creates a little bit of competition. And I have seen that to kind of dull the feminine power in these circles down. And an easy way of doing that, I had shared about how I came about knowing who I am. An easy way to do that and how I did it was to sit with my Mayan sign and take it in and just explore it through a process of initiation, what it meant to me. And there are many other ways, but this was the way I did it. And another way I see the feminine being dulled down is kind of following the masculine still, oh, of either having male teachers where it's kind of coming one direction from the masculine towards the feminine, and there's not a lot of reciprocity, like a lot of engagement with the feminine or bringing the feminine into these circles. And also, about maybe the feminine waiting for the masculine to kind of make it safe for them to really come forward. This was certainly the case for me for a very long time. And, kind of waiting for the masculine. And another way I see this dulling down of the feminine power to bring into these circles is from this kind of spiritual kind of taking in of these sayings like turning the other cheek. And, that was said in a whole different time. And we live in a whole very different time from when that was said. And this kind of turning a blind eye or turning the other cheek, I just don't think really does a lot for the feminine, from the feminine. And we are definitely in a place of action, feet on the ground, I think. And I think it's important to speak up and speak out, um, when we don't feel safe, or there are people we don't feel safe around. I don't think we're in a time where it's good to be the neighbor who knows that not very good things are going on next door, and just kind of sitting to find balance within oneself, or, sitting and feeling and transmutation. I think that's part of it. But I also think it's important for this action of doing something different, other than where we've, you know, doing things, we've found ourselves in this place of accepting the unacceptable as a planetary whole, and tolerating the intolerable. And I do think it is building on an old foundation, building new on an old foundation, if there is this continuance of, not speaking out. And I think that people can hear this as it's kind of an act of war, but it's just a simple declaration of peace, in my opinion, by saying we won't tolerate this any longer. And I have been very interested in how these will kind of play out in the future in circles. If it's a masculine harming, will the men take them to take them and spend time with them to heal them, until there's like this consensus of bringing them back in where the women feel safe, and the opposite for women who are harming, will women take them to the side and help heal them. I've been interested in how that will kind of play out. I know it's not for me to play that part in bringing those things about, because I have long held this circle where people really don't come to it until they're laid bare. It's something that I've seen and experienced in this seeing, where people are just very much laid bare. So I believe that this is a circle that people don't join until kind of a ways down the road. In my experience of being laid bare to hold this kind of circle, where they're not people there, it's just, you're just holding the space for when it comes. But my experience of being laid bare enough to do that is living in the desert for over 20 years. And the desert has this magic to it. And, whatever kind of identity you want to build, it takes. And if you want to build another one, it will take it. This is the gift of living in the desert. And it is a special gift for those who really need to be somebody. Especially, there's so much of that I see on social media. There's this mind virus of this, somebody, nobody virus. And people that have maybe 5 to 200,000 followers, they think they're famous because they have this following. And there's just an energy to social media as having this virus. And in the desert, you really get the special treatment if you need to be somebody, by those around you who will make sure that you're not special. Because we kind of exist a little bit, maybe not in the cities, but in the small towns. We exist somewhat out of time, and we're just really in the present with one another. No one really needs to know, or ever really ask anybody, who they are, what they do, or nobody really know needs to know. Nobody asks, "Well, what do you do for a living?" At least where I lived for a very long time, you never heard people ask that. We were just very present with one another. And my thought about unification and what it requires a little bit is self-dignity and respect for others. I also wanted to share a little bit more about 2024 and being this doorway. And well, I hope to not share about it. This was a monumental year for those of us who kind of had the consciousness that our actions in 2024, they either intensified or quelled what was going to come in the future, shorten either the longevity of it, the kind of chaos that we might experience. And so many people worked very hard in 2024 and just had these kind of very rich years um, of kind of going all in. And this experience that I had of being this doorway, this day where I saw myself and agreed to be this doorway, I was in Palenque, Mexico. And I was with many of these men where I was to expose an aspect of myself to each one of them, the same one to each one. And that day, I was wearing a necklace. And I knew it was symbolic uh, because so much when you kind of live in ceremony, everything is symbolic. You just don't know what it is until later on down the road. And I knew that this necklace was symbolic. And it's a keychain. And it is a circle of these drops of water, or these, how I look at it now, are, are these drops of water, which are the feminine coming into circle, into unification. And I was wearing this necklace in Palenque that day. I decided to be a doorway. And it has this, I was wearing it with this little bird on it. And one of the partners for one of the men gave me this feather. I attached to it, and it had these keys hanging from it. And later in the year, I had a dream where I was kind of in a crowded city, and I saw all these younger women wearing this keychain in some capacity or another. Either they were wearing it around their wrist, or as a choker, or as a strap to a purse or a belt. And at first I was like, oh no, this is like a copycat thing, not more of that. But it was, no, it was that this was going to also, that many women were going to experience this doorway. And also, being these aspects of water coming into circle for unification. Sometime towards the fall of 2024, I began to draw this picture of my experience during that year and what it was like for me. And I'll put it up on the end of this video. And if you can't see it very well, there are little drops of water, or teardrops. And it was kind of the emotion I had around the grief I had around this year and the masculine. And when I was in Palenque, I was living in Mexico. So I had the keys to my house attached to my car. And I was living by this body of water that is very much this color blue. And I was living by this body of water, this water I speak about, or what I was looking for and searching for that I spoke about in an earlier video of where I would live in the future in Mexico. And one day I was sitting by this body of water and I heard that it was a lake of tears from a goddess who had been separated by her masculine counterpart. Since sometime in the last year, I have been really sitting with all of this, and especially 2024, maybe I'll process that 10 years from now. But I've been sitting with being in this feminine body and being an aspect of the feminine in this time of unification and being in circle. And what I will do now, the choices I will make. And I have been in conversation with other women of prayer around this. And we all seem to kind of echo this from one another, that I think there are, people who think that we should just find the balance with inside ourselves and kind of end up on the external masculine, feminine in balance in these circles. But there's, masculine, feminine, there's this part, action on the ground, getting there. There's that. And how in my circle of women that, and at least for me, I know at the end of a masculine cycle, I feel tired and kind of just want to rest with the feminine, receiving the feminine, resting with other or women, and being in circle with other women. And that this consensus that we have living in a masculine dominant planet, that we have given our whole lives already to the masculine, cried all these tears and given so much of our lives to it, to finding balance already, whether just, in the workplace or at home, or trying to be heard or trying to be seen, especially for older women. And that, myself along with them, I don't feel like it's my responsibility to bring balance to the masculine and feminine. I mean, I dedicated a year to it, along with most of my life on planet Earth. And it's really up for the masculine to find balance with the feminine in whatever way that is for them. And that is kind of the decision I have made now, that it's just not for me or for us to do. It's kind of for us to carry on in this new way of being and receiving all this feminine energy and being in a feminine body. And that is the story I wanted to share with you today about unification from my perspective as a woman, and my perspective of the feminine coming into unification. From the teardrops, the cosmic mother. Until our next story time, take care.